My friends, lean closer to the fire. Tonight, I will tell you a story. A story of a boy, a forest, and a drum. But not just any drum. A drum that could never lie. This is the story of the Drum of Truth. One hot afternoon, a boy named Kofi chased grasshoppers near the forest edge. The sun was heavy, the earth baked and dry, and then he heard it. Boom, 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 boom. At first, he thought it was thunder, but the sky was clear, not a single cloud above. Curiosity pulled him forward. Deeper and deeper into the forest he went. Birds scattered above him, monkeys chattered, until finally, Kofi reached a giant baobab tree, its roots twisted like the arms of an old elder. And there, resting between its roots, was a drum. Not an ordinary drum. The wood was carved with swirling patterns of animals and rivers, its skin aged yet alive, almost breathing. Kofi stretched out his hand, and in that instant, the drum spoke in a whisper. Only he could hear. "Take me, young one. I am the drum of truth. But know this, when I am played, I cannot lie." Kofi's heart raced. A talking drum? Could it be real? Yet, the drum seemed to call him. With trembling arms, he lifted it and carried it home. That very week, the chief, a tall man with a staff carved from ebony wood, stood before the people beneath the shade of the great baobab tree. His voice carried across the gathering like a drum beat itself, steady and commanding. "My people," he announced, "the harvest has been kind to us this season. The yams are plentiful, the millet strong, and the rains have fed our land well. To honor this blessing, we shall hold a grand festival." The villagers cheered, clapping their hands and stamping their feet on the earth. Children squealed in delight, imagining the roasted meats, the sweet fruits, and the dances that would last until the moon was high. Women began to whisper about the clothes they would wear, the beads they would polish, and the songs they would teach their daughters. The chief raised his hand, calling for silence once more. There will be feasting, there will be dancing, and there will be music. His eyes gleamed as he lifted his staff toward the sky. And to celebrate, there shall also be a contest. Let all who hold a drum come forward, for whoever plays the most powerful rhythm shall lead the festival. The rhythm that can move the people, that can awaken their very spirits, will be honored above all others. The crowd erupted again, louder this time, a wave of excitement rushing through the village. Young boys puffed out their chests, eager to prove themselves. Older drummers, tall and strong, grinned proudly, already imagining the rhythms they would unleash on the night of the festival. They began to polish their drums, rubbing the wood until it shone, tightening the skins to make the beats sharper and louder. Some practiced in the open air, boasting to one another about how their rhythms would echo through the night like thunder itself. Kofi watched them all, his heart restless. The other boys had drums passed down from fathers and grandfathers, each one well cared for and respected. Their confidence was like armor, and they wore it proudly. Kofi, in contrast, held his mysterious drum, the one he had found hidden in the forest, the one that whispered with a voice only he could hear. His fingers traced the carvings of animals and rivers along its side, and he wondered, could this strange drum stand against the thunder of the others? Could a boy as small as him dare to step into the circle? Doubt gnawed at him. His drum looked old, different, even broken to some eyes. What if the people laughed? What if the chief turned him away? And yet, beneath his fear, there was a spark of hope, faint but alive. That night, as the moon rose high and silver light spilled through the cracks of his small hut, Kofi sat with the drum across his lap. The forest breeze whispered through the doorway, carrying with it the smell of earth and firewood. And then, softly, the drum spoke again, its voice deep and steady. "Do not fear. Play me. Let truth be heard." The long-awaited night of the festival finally arrived. The entire village gathered in the open square, beneath the starlit sky. Fires blazed high, their flames dancing in the night, sending sparks upward, as if they too wanted to join the celebration. The smell of roasted goat and spiced yams drifted through the air, mixing with the sweet scent of palm wine. Laughter echoed from every corner. Children darted between the legs of their elders, playing games, their giggles ringing like tiny bells. Women clapped in rhythm, their bright garments glowing in the firelight, while men stomped their feet to the beat of handheld rattles. The air pulsed with energy, the kind of joy that comes only when a people celebrate both the land and each other. At the heart of it all, the drummers gathered. Their drums were polished and proud, stretched tight, ready to thunder into the night. The crowd formed a wide circle, eager to hear the contest begin. One by one, the drummers stepped forward. Strong young men raised their hands and struck with force. Thunderous beats that shook the ground, frenzied rhythms that raced like wild horses. Their hands pounded like storms against the skins, fast, relentless, demanding attention. The people clapped along, polite but restrained. Yes, the sound was strong, but something about it felt hollow, as though the rhythms lacked a soul. Then, at last, it was Kofi's turn. The crowd parted, and all eyes turned toward the small boy as he stepped forward, touching the strange old drum against his chest. The villagers burst out laughing. Some shook their heads in disbelief. "That small boy?" someone scoffed. "Look at his broken old drum," another sneered. "What noise could he possibly make?" Their laughter echoed cruelly, wrapping around Kofi like a heavy chain. Kofi's hands trembled. He could feel his heart pounding louder than the drums before him. For a moment he wanted to turn away, to hide in the shadows where no one could see him. But then he remembered the drum's words. He closed his eyes, blocking out the laughter, the fire, the crowd. He took a slow, deep breath and raised his hands. Boom, 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 boom. The sound rolled across the circle, low and deep, like the very earth itself had spoken. It was not loud, not frantic, but it was alive. It carried weight, meaning, a rhythm unlike any they had heard that night. The crowd fell into silence, their laughter caught in their throats. And then, suddenly, the drum spoke. The sound of Kofi's drum deepened, and with every beat it began to speak, not in words alone, but in truths that wrapped around every ear, every heart. First, it sang of the farmers, those quiet men and women who rose before the first light of dawn. They bent their backs in the fields while the world still slept, their hands hardened by earth and sun. Day after day, they tilled the soil, planted the seeds, and prayed for rain. Their sweat fed the village, yet few ever thanked them. As the drum carried their story, the farmers in the crowd lowered their eyes, some with tears glistening in the firelight. For the first time, they felt seen, their silent sacrifices echoing back through the rhythm. Then, the drum turned to the women. It sang of the mothers, sisters, and daughters who carried heavy clay pots of water from distant rivers, their steps steady under the burning sun. It sang of those who kept the fires burning long into the night, cooking meals when others rested, who raised the children, sang them to sleep, and still found strength to weave. clean, and serve. Yet, though their hands shaped the very life of the village, praise was rarely theirs. As the drum revealed this truth, the women in the circle stood taller, their faces glowing with pride, though their eyes shimmered with long-held sorrow. The men shifted uncomfortably, ashamed they had not spoken such honor before. The drum's voice grew stronger, sharper, like a storm breaking over dry land. It sang of the hunters, whose courage was known across the plains. They boasted of bravery, of chasing lions, of facing the forest's dangers. But the drum spoke of the times when they hunted more than was needed, taking not for the village, but for pride. A murmur ran through the crowd, and the hunters' shoulders stiffened. Some looked down, unable to meet the eyes of their neighbors. The rhythm pressed on. It sang of the trader who used crooked weights, who cheated the people with false measures, taking a little more than he gave each time. Gasps rose from the crowd, and all eyes turned toward the man, whose face burned red with shame as he tried to shrink into the shadows. But the drum did not stop. Its voice cut deeper, more fearless. It sang of the chief's son, the boy who strutted with arrogance, who bullied the smaller children, taking their food, their toys, their peace. The young ones in the crowd exchanged glances, nodding silently as the truth was spoken for them. The villagers turned toward the boy, whose bravado vanished in an instant as he lowered his head in guilt. And still, the drum continued. It sang even of the elders, those wise ones who guided the people, reminding all that sometimes, even they had taken more than their share during the feasts. The words were not shouted, but they cut deeper than any insult, for they came not from anger, but from honesty. By now, the entire village was silent. The fires still blazed, but no laughter, no whisper dared rise above the voice of the drum. Every man, every woman, every child felt its rhythm inside their chest. It was steady, unshakable, undeniable, the honest voice of truth. Slowly, the rhythm softened, like a heartbeat calming after a long run. The voice of the drum grew gentle, carrying wisdom rather than judgment. At times, it said, our hearts carry secrets. We bury them deep, thinking they are safe. But secrets are heavy. They divide brothers, they separate neighbors, they break the trust that holds a village together. Truth may sting, but truth heals. It cleanses like cool rain after drought. Let honesty bind this village as rhythm binds the dance. Kofi struck one final beat. Boom. The sound rolled like thunder across the night. And then, silence. Not even the insects dared hum. The fires still burned, but their crackling seemed hushed, as though even the flames were listening. The people sat frozen, their faces glowing in the firelight, their eyes wide, their chests rising and falling with the weight of what they had heard. Some clutched their children tighter. Others stared at the ground, as if afraid to meet one another's gaze. The whole world felt suspended in that breathless moment. At last, the chief rose. His tall figure cast a long shadow against the flames. He looked first at Kofi, then at the old, worn drum that had dared to speak. His voice was deep and heavy, but his eyes softened with humility. Small one, he said slowly, each word carrying the weight of generations, you have given us truth. And truth is the hardest song to play. Many men can strike a drum and make noise. Few can strike a heart and make it listen. You remind us that a village is only strong when its people are honest. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the crowd, resting on his own son, who stood quietly with lowered head, on the trader still trembling in shame, and on the elders whose dignity was touched by humility. The chief's voice broke the silence once more. We must change. And then it happened. The silence cracked, not with anger, not with fear, but with something purer. Cheers erupted from the crowd, bursting forth like water from a broken dam. They were not the cheers of mockery, not the uneasy clapping of earlier, but cheers filled with joy, with relief. It was as if a great burden had been lifted from every chest. Men pounded the ground, women raised their voices, children laughed and clapped. The whole village celebrated, not just the music, but the truth that had finally been spoken aloud. From that day forward, the drum of truth was no longer hidden in the forest. It was placed at the very heart of the village. When neighbors quarreled, the drum was played. When accusations rose, the drum was played. And always, its rhythm guided the people back to honesty. And the boy Kofi? He became the drum's keeper. Not because he was the strongest, but because he had the courage to listen. So remember, my friends, a lie may dance loudly, but truth carries the stronger rhythm. Even the smallest voice, even a boy with a broken drum, can remind a whole village how to live. And that, my friends, is the story of the drum that spoke truth. May we all carry the rhythm of honesty in our hearts.